Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Godzilla Rant video. For this particular video, I wanted to focus on a topic that actually helped start off the Godzilla Rant series a couple of months back. If you'll remember, I did my first Godzilla Rant video on Blockbuster, the demise of Blockbuster, and it got some pretty good views and some good comments from those of you out there in the YouTube land. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about another company that looks to be following pretty much the same path that Blockbuster did in terms of making all the wrong decisions at all the right times. And in this case, it has to do with RadioShack. I'm sure you and we have both heard of RadioShack, if not visited one, if not recently, probably considering the sales in the stores. But we've all visited RadioShack once in our life. I've done a couple of visits to the local Radio Shacks here in my area, mainly like most other people to try to find those last minute urgent items in order for some piece of technology to start working again. And for this particular podcast, I wanted to talk about, just like I did with the Blockbuster one, why Radio Shack failed, all the wrong mistakes that they were doing, and highlight how they could have had some good opportunities to take advantage of, and then essentially go over the possibilities that the stores, which there are still a bunch of them that are going to be closed. I mean, we're talking thousands of stores. What's going to happen with those stores? I'm a big fan of the business world, big fan of anything involving the financial sector or technology-oriented news, so that's why I'm covering this particular topic here. So Radio Shack, yeah, again, something that you and I have visited. It's been around for a good time. I think since the early 1910s was when it was first founded. So considering the year it is now, it's had over 100 years in operation. It's sad to see a behemoth like this. It used to be the king of the retail world, especially on the technology side. In fact, there was a famous quote that I think one of the CEOs said one time that at its height, the CEO said it had a store within 15 minutes of every American in the United States. Quite a powerful statement. But now, with pretty much its demise coming soon, it's not official yet, but whenever you have your stock listing as a company removed from the stock exchange, that's pretty much it. You're done. So this company is going to be liquidated, if not outright sold to another entity, or it'll just be closed outright. It just depends on to see what kind of bankruptcy it has. But again, the fall of this great empire, what it had just a few short years back compared to where it stands now, very interesting to talk about where they made all the wrong steps. I'll talk about real quick, I guess the last time I visited a Radio Shack. It used to be whenever I lived in the northern area of my town here in Austin, because there was a Radio Shack right nearby my apartment. Very convenient. Where I'm at now, I don't think there's one. I haven't really looked for one though. But whenever I was at the northern location and anything happened and I needed some batteries, or I needed anything as far as let's say something malfunctioned, like my DVD player broke, anything along those lines, and I just had to have something right then and there, then I was lucky enough to have a Radio Shack available, which is pretty cool stuff. I always look for that whenever I move into a new place. I'm looking for the essentials, like is there a grocery store nearby? Is there anything involving like a post office nearby? Is there anything involving like a Radio Shack, a tire store, restaurants, stuff like that, stuff that's convenient in my own little area. And sure enough, there was this Radio Shack there. But that was a couple years back, and it goes to show why it falls under my reasons why the place failed. It was too many customers like myself that were just using it as last minute purchases. I'm sure there's a lot of you out there that are thinking the same thing as well. You're like, I'm gonna go to Radio Shack, but only if it's like a last minute choice. Otherwise, I'm going to order something online. Know what I mean? I mean, that's essentially how most Americans, you and I, have felt when it comes to this store. So that's one reason. Here's another reason why the store failed. Every time that I went in there, it seemed like it was always about the cell phones. I don't know if this was a change that was done just within the past couple of years, or if it had been something that's been going on for quite some time. But it seems like Radio Shack was trying to be something that it wasn't. Like it was trying to be an actual cell phone store, like an actual Verizon store or an AT&T store. And on top of that, the employees, through no fault of their own, they were essentially cell phone associates. It sure did seem that way, at least. It was good and dandy. I mean, I was able to get one time one of my cell phone contracts extended when it matured, and I was able to get another free phone right there rather than having to visit like an actual AT&T store, which was quite nice. But a lot of times people go to Radio Shack not for their cell phone. They're going there to try to get something, again, one of those hard to miss parts, hard to find parts, or something that it broke that they need to get replaced. But when Radio Shack was focusing too much on cell phones, it distanced the true Radio Shack customers who would come in, but they would find that employees were too busy trying to service or sell a cell phone, and those were not easy transactions. Those would take easily 10 to 20 minutes just at the minimum. So when you have to deal with that, and you have a customer, a real Radio Shack customer, who's trying to just purchase something that they need right away, but then they're having to wait up to 20 minutes for a cell phone transaction to finish, you can see why it drove away those customers. And then those cell phone customers that were there, they're not coming back for anything else as far as the Radio Shack side, so they lost those customers too. So it's like a double whammy of sorts. So that's another reason. Reason number 2 is involving online versus store prices. I mean, my goodness, anything involving the Radio Shack stuff, it is just really expensive. I know they have to make the costs associated with the actual location, the physical location, the cost of the employees, all the inventory that they have. But whenever you compare the purchase of, let's say, like an HDMI cable at a Radio Shack store as opposed to something you can buy on Amazon, it is a world of difference, and it definitely makes the idea of choosing, oh, am I going to purchase it now and pay almost 10 times the cost, or am I going to wait like a week or two and get it in the mail and just suffer the waiting period? That leads to the next reason. You're trying to balance how much it comes to cost compared to convenience. And unfortunately for the case of Radio Shack, especially in these days with the recession, a couple of years after that, people trying to trim expenses here and there, convenience definitely outweighs cost. So that was another fault that Radio Shack had to deal with. And then finally, another reason is anything involving the aforementioned customer service. Again, through no fault of the employees, they're just working there. They have a job to do. They have to sell warranties or sell those cell phones that they have, the contracts that they have there. It led to the service or lack thereof for those people that were just truly trying to make some other type of purchase. Anything involving TVs, anything involving Blu-rays, questions along those lines. It was like a race to the bottom, if you will, especially if you tie that to the idea that purchases made in the store, for some whatever reason, Radio Shack never combined the prospect of buying things online and then maybe having them sent to the store, or maybe if they did, they certainly didn't, let's say, promote it or announce it with that much fanfare, because people would essentially try to do their stories of people trying to buy something online, but it tells you that it's only at the store, and then if you go to the store, then it tells you that the store tells you that they're not there, that the stuff is not there anymore. The stuff, in other words, just didn't sync with one another. Not like, say, Walmart. Walmart does a pretty good job when it comes to what you can buy online, have sent to an actual Walmart, pick it up there for your convenience, and then while you're there, oh look, I do see something else that interests me, and then the store adds a couple of more sales. That's the kind of stuff that Radio Shack didn't capitalize on because of the bad service that they were giving out to the customers. Lots of stuff going on, lots of reasons as to why Radio Shack failed. If anyone has any other reasons that they can think of as far as why Radio Shack failed, then please post your comments, share them below. I guess you could also say another reason is tied to the customer service is the lack of employee morale. But that all ties ultimately into if the store is doing good, if the company is doing good, then it usually means the employees are doing good. But when the employees are doing bad, then the company ends up doing bad, and that means it's like a self-serving cycle. The store does worse, the employees do worse, and it just craters from there. Again, a race to the bottom, if you will. With regards to the employees, I mean, I feel sorry for them. That something's either there, hopefully, and I'll talk about these opportunities here in a minute, but hopefully something will work out with them with regards to future tenants and how they're going to do things. But it's interesting to note, I mean, Apple basically has the same function as a Radio Shack. Those of you that have been inside an Apple store, you go there and there's technology on the wall, little gadgets here and there, associates walking around, but the place is busy full. It could be, of course, with the Apple mania that people have, Apple loyalists, where they must have Apple, and Apple does a great job of promoting themselves and making it more of a cultural event rather than the actual product itself. But it's the same difference. It's the idea, there's a store, there's technology in it, there's salespeople, associates, and those stores do really well. So why didn't it last for Radio Shack? Those are all the reasons that I listed above. So again, if you have anything else that you could think of, please post them below. Plus, I've looked and I found a very nice link. I've included it below. Check it out when you have a chance. It's from a former employee there at Radio Shack, a guy who you probably uses the made-up name John, and he worked there for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years or so, he said. And he has tales, complete tales of the horrors of some of the stuff that occurred there within Radio Shack. It kind of gives you an idea also of why Radio Shack failed, because a lot of it was ineptness, both from the management, both from the executive, both from the employees. It was just an all-around, the whole store, all the team, everybody was just failing. And he has great stories. Check them out when you have a chance. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about. And on top of that, there's a bunch more comments below on the website. It's on the website sbnation.com, where other employees of Radio Shack tell some of their experiences too. I mean, my goodness, it's like taking the curtain and pulling it back and seeing all this horror, and you never realized it when you were walking into a Radio Shack, all the behind the scenes drama that apparently was occurring in some of those offices. But they're there, or they were there, and if you have a chance, check out the link. You won't. It's a good read too. Separated maybe about 15-20 minutes of your time, but it's definitely worth it, and you'll be able to see and hear and read all of the horror stories that they have. Now, as far as the recommendations and the opportunities that those stores will have, what's fascinating to note is that already there are other companies that are interested in all those stores that Radio Shack has. That's the prime opportunity that Radio Shack missed. Again, as I mentioned earlier, just like with Walmart, you have all those stores. Why not use it to your advantage? If Radio Shack would have capitalized on having, let's say, those online purchases lead people to the stores to pick them up, and then that would have led to further sales, that would have been perfect. Well, guess who's thinking along those same lines? It's Amazon. Amazon is actually thinking about doing that, and what they'll do is they'll purchase, if not all the stores, half of the stores, something along those lines, and make them into like an Amazon storefront, so that way they could physically showcase like the Kindles, showcase that Fire phone that was touted just last year, and it'll actually be a place for their physical products to be displayed, which is a great idea in my opinion. I mean, here, one of Amazon's weak points is you can't test like the Fire phone in person. You can't test the Kindle in person. You have to look through pages of online online links just touting its benefits, but there's something about physically holding it and looking at it and then turning it around and examining it that creates the true decision whether you want to buy it or not. Well, now Amazon will be able to do that, which is a great idea. Awesome stuff. Who knows what they'll have there in those stores too. I'm looking forward to it, because if my thinking is correct, Amazon will probably jump on some kind of reward program too. For anything involving like store purchases, kind of like what any other stores has, like Best Buy when it comes to the technology side. So if Amazon does this, I am all for that. Bad for Apple though, because Apple, they're having great success on there, and then here's going to be a competitor that'll be able to gobble up hundreds if not thousands of stores to work with. And another idea that's being floated around is Verizon is apparently going to gobble up those stores and then use them as a storefront as well. Not so exciting because I mean it'll basically be another cell phone store, but I'm far more eager for Amazon to do it. But otherwise, that's my info. That's the Godzilla rant that I'll have on RadioShack and the reasons why. Crazy to think with all this hindsight how a technology store that is supposed to be on the forefront of technology, and everyone knows that technology is only as good as yesterday. I mean, this stuff phases in and it phases out quick, that they could not adapt to the way purchases were being made, the way computers were evolving, the way technology was updating on a daily basis, that they themselves, the technology company, couldn't adapt to these changes. Quite ironic. And again, if it changes and it happens to be that way where Amazon becomes the company that now owns this place, who knows, maybe they'll even keep RadioShack and decide to use a lot of the existing inventory there for their own stores. It's a wait and see kind of approach. So if anyone has any stories again about their RadioShack days, if you remember them from the good days, from the bad days, please post your comments, share them below. Myself, I've had nothing but really good experiences other than waiting every now and then because of the cell phone sales. But other than that, this is my idea again as far as Amazon taking over. Great stuff. So alright, thanks again everybody, take care.